around 2017 or 2016, I was in college. You know, I was free. And this time I was with my aunt. Imagine, right? I left this cult church or whatever. My mother wasn't there. My father wasn't there. And I would just be driving. I was free. I was already introduced to drugs. I was already opened, to that perversion, that lifestyle. This is the time that it actually unleashed itself. I wasn't on campus when I was in college. I wasn't, but maybe I lived like 10 minutes away from campus. So I encountered the movers and shakers. Like, I had this crew. I remember I was in this crew full of African girls. I was born here, but you would never know. I love my African culture. I love everything about, my African background, right? So that's when I met these group of girls at school, and I'll just be that girl that would just see what they would be doing. I would chop it up a bit with some guys, and that would be about it, but I wasn't having sex, but I was drinking, I was smoking. And then this group of girls that I was in, some of the girls started playing like really grown men. Like, my father took very well care of me, even though he was in another country. It was just that absence of, that fatherly love that I've always wanted. Your mother nor your father is there, so it's like, wow. That's when I ended up going clubbing. That's when, promoters would get us in, and, this person would know this person. It's like, oh, get me in, get me in. And I was just that pretty girl that's just like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna get her in. She's fine, and all of that. And now that I look back, it was God definitely that sent my aunt to get me out of whatever predicament I was in. But then I ended up in another predicament where smoking heavy, going clubbing, we'll go to class. I just like going out, and my family, we love music. My uncle was a DJ, my father was a DJ. There was even a point in time, thanks to God, thanks to Jesus saving me, I was gonna, go to graduate school or go to college and be a part-time DJ on the side. That's how deep it was, right? And I love music. I love music. But that's definitely what I would go to a club for. And I was just so hurt, so damaged, so lost. Maybe that time I was like 17, going inside a club, not supposed to be there, should be home sleeping or watching something on TV. But that's when I started really going out and meeting other people, getting involved with the wrong people. That's when I met this man that I ended up being in a 4 to 5 year relationship with him. And I believe this was my first relationship. And I remember very vividly, I actually started doing bottle service. I was getting the attention, body looking right. I was working out. And when I was a young girl, I wasn't, according to what I know now, I wasn't that popular girl. I wasn't that it girl, in high school. When I came back from Sierra Leone and I lost weight and the maturity started to kick in, that's when I started gaining the attention that I never had before. I guess my face slimmed out. That's when that attention that I never received from my father, that love that I never received from my father, it was more from my mother. But I've always wanted that fatherly affection, and I didn't get it. So I let the attention and the all of this get to my head. So I started doing bottle service, I would pop bottles, serve bottles. Like, I was making money. I was literally cashing out dollars on campus, and people would literally be walking past me like, yo, what is this girl doing? Is she a stripper? Or so I started doing bottle service. I was making money. I was. It's not that I needed the money, but I'm now unleashed to this lifestyle. It's like, whoa, I am free. And obviously that spirit was there. So I remember one night I was doing bottle service, and then this grown man, I just noticed that this grown man would just be walking across the lounge. And it was a hookah lounge, right? It was a hookah lounge, and I noticed this man just kept on looking at me. Like, he would come around and, he, small talk me next to the bar. But I was like, what grown man, uncle? What uncle is this? That's what we call them, uncles. That's an uncle. A grown man like him, at that time, maybe I was 18. At that time, I'm going based off of what I remember. After that, I wasn't really paying him no mind. And then this girl comes over to me and she was like, yeah, can I have your number? And blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know that this girl was his quote unquote best friend. The following morning or afternoon, he reaches out to me. This odd number reaches out to me. And I'm like, okay, who's this? And he says is X, Y, and Z, right? This man was 16 years. It was a 16-year age gap relationship. And I forgot to mention that not only was this guy just looking at me or like coming my way during that night, but it looked so prayish. It looked like he was like keeping tabs on me, like, yo, like prey, like actual prey. So this ties back to, having that really close relationship with my father that I've always wanted. So he reaches out to me and I'm like, okay, who gave you my number? And he had mentioned that, oh, it was my best friend that took your number. It had to do with rejection and, not having that fatherly attention that I've always wanted as a young girl. I ended up going out with this man. And I didn't know at the time that he was that age. I knew that he was way older than me, but I didn't know it was a 16-year gap. So he asked me my age, he takes me out, but one thing I noticed is that he would just have his hand on his elbow and look at me while I'm eating, and it was so uncomfortable. I honestly was just there. I wanted attention, any form of attention, and so he ends up asking me my age. I tell him I'm way older. Maybe I told him 20 something. That time I was like 17 turning 18 or 18 turning 19. And I lied to him because I knew I wasn't interested. I had interest in men, but that seed of lesbianism was there. So I was looking at both men and women. But during that time when he called me, I really, really, really was craving attention. And he was there, and, I saw him as a brother, as a father, but I never wanted him. I never wanted him in that way. Never. It was that love and care that he would show me, and being emotionally vulnerable and traumatized in such a way. I saw him as, an idol, like that father figure, like, wow, this is someone that can, give me that fatherly love that I've always wanted. But I didn't want the sexual part. I didn't want him in that way, right? I wasn't even attracted to him. And I was still in college at the time. And he actually was the one who told me, you should, just focus on school. You should leave bottle service. It's not good for you. Stay away from these people. So he asked me my age. I lied to him, and then I end up confessing to him that, look, I'm 18 or 17 or 19, and that's when he told me his age. That time he was 35. 35 years old. Compared to an 18-year-old girl. So when I came out with my actual age, he was like, well, I don't mind. I already love you anyway. I already really like you. But now that I look back, that's sick. That was absolutely sick. Sick. Doesn't matter how you feel. If you know that I was that age, back off. I don't care how you felt. Right? So he was giving me everything I wanted, and this was not even anything dealing with any financial issues. Like I said, my father was taking great care of me. I just was absent of that fatherly love and affection that I've always wanted. And he gave it to me. He was there for me. He would motivate me. He was like, he was there. He was there. I suffered so hard to be attracted to him. Imagine an 18-year-old girl, with a grown man. There was even a point before I even get there. So he asked me out, oh, can you be my girlfriend? I didn't want to be in a relationship with him. But that love and attention that I wasn't getting, he gave it to me, per se. Anything I wanted, he became my father, just in the way that I didn't want it. That's the first person I actually lost my complete virginity to. I didn't want to be with him. I always desired, to a point that, I would lie to people that, yeah, he's my uncle. He's my uncle. And, that type of age gap, we wouldn't have the same type of friends. So I was forced to mature very quickly. And this man had 2 other kids. And I believe the eldest one at that time was 15 and the second oldest was like 9. And as you can imagine, maybe I was like maybe 4 years older than his eldest daughter. And it's like, he would tell me, don't worry about it. They see you as your stepmother, as their stepmother. Like, you would get used to it, but how can a child be an adult to another child? Although I wasn't a toddler, I was a teenage girl, 18, 19. Girl, that's my little sister. But a lot of things I didn't like. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be with him, but I was just attached to him. He was my first, sexual experience, and it was so bad that he started to get possessive over me, where I said, yeah, you don't want to spend time with me. You always want to spend time with your friends. It's like he always wanted to be around me. And I didn't know what to do. I just felt stuck. I was like, this is a grown man. I always wanted someone my age. It got to a point that I had to force myself to have sex with him. because I was just not attracted to him. I just felt like I owed him something because he was there and he provided that love that I always wanted. It was miserable. I was just miserable. I didn't want to be there. I would do everything. And I would cheat. I would see other people. Not so many were good times. It was that void that he temporarily kind of filled. And it just shows that nobody could ever fill in that void except Jesus Christ himself. I would make excuses. I'm tired. I'm just not to have sex with him. And this man was a Freemason, 32nd degree Freemason. He was an ex-militant. He was in the military. And if he ever sees this testimony, he knows I mean no harm. And all I want is everyone that I dealt with in the past, you know, whether it's friendships or any other thing, to know Jesus Christ. I remember we went to one of his meetings, you know, the Freemason meetings, and I didn't even know what it was. He would always have this ring on. I didn't know what that was. I didn't even know what Freemasonry was. So he was in the military, he came back, and he had told me his experiences. And he just had a very weird side to him. It's very weird. It's very obsessive, very pedophilia-ish, but it was very weird. Very weird. Very uncomfortable. But got to a point I didn't want no parts of him. I felt I was free physically, but I was just held bound spiritually. I didn't know how to leave. I didn't know what to do. I have grown so close to this man, dependent on this man. And it was just that closeness that I established with this man. And I always tried to tell myself that maybe this is the man God has for you. You'll learn to love him. I never loved. I had love for him, but I never was in love with this man. And as you could imagine, being a very young, attractive female, and you see others, you know, with, you know, their age range of men, right? And I'm over here like I'm stuck with this uncle. Like I hated it. I hated it. I didn't know what to do. You know, being so young, how the hell do I get up out of here? How? Never been in this predicament before. What do I do? I ended up getting pregnant for this man on September 30th, 2019. And I remember we had intercourse, and I was like, dang, okay. It happened, and I took a plan B, and it didn't work. It didn't work. And when I tell you I was miserable, I couldn't believe I was pregnant. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Imagine a young girl like this. I'm already undergoing a lot. Already want to get out of this relationship. Don't know what to do. What the hell do I do now? And that time, there was a time that my mother actually came back to the States. And I believe I told her about this man. And we ended up this person ended up meeting my mother, the man that I was with. And like I said, I got pregnant the first time. And I let him know, and he didn't mind. He said, you're a very young girl, and you're young and you're in college. I would have kept it and married you, but I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to be with you. So why are you telling me this? Just shut up. And that saying where you don't know what you're capable of unless you're in that predicament. I never would have thought. I honestly was that girl that really believed in virginity. I didn't have sex until like maybe 18 or 19. And I was just distraught. And we came to agreement. And I had an abortion, and when we came to agreement, he was like, you know what? This is not the time, and I support you. And I remember when I went to the clinic, I saw these pro-life women outside the abortion clinic. And they were saying, are you sure you want to do this? They're holding up posters. I remember I went in, and I was a guy in the scan, and he told me I was 4 weeks pregnant. So I was like, you know what? Forget this. I don't want to be with this man. The lady had asked me, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, yeah. So I went in, and I was in this room, and the stickers around me was like, you can, choose to keep the baby, and I was just in there crying. Just crying. So I finally go in, and I saw another young woman sitting across from me. And the feeling that I felt was like death. The atmosphere was just cold. It was sad. It was just death, like around me. It was just cold, and it was a very lonely feeling. It's just something I will never experience again in my life. But I go in, I get the procedure done, and I had so much pain. It's like so much pain. And I remember from that time, I believe something shifted from that time. That's when, since I was so desperate, I started seeing another man that was young. Imagine being with someone that you didn't want to be with. The sex, it was just there. I had to force myself to have sex with this man. And I ended up cheating on this man. Started seeing a young guy. He's all that I ever wanted. 6'5", built, muscular. Everything I wanted in a man physically. It was lust. It was lust. But I didn't know what to do. So I would cheat. I would do other things with this guy. And he ended up finding out. But I would beg him. Why would I beg him? I grew dependent on him. I couldn't imagine life without this man, because he has been there for so long, for about 4 to 5 years in my life. And that's when the lesbian pursuit started officially.